Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, I'm going to be fixing your guys' draft. So over on the Brawl Stars competitive Reddit, a lot of people put out their draft query, and I'll just like to go through every single one of them because, of course, it will vary in terms of like diamond rank all the way up to masters. And of course, ranked just comes up with a lot of different nonsense, a lot of like unpredictable picks, whereas in pro play, you kind of know what you're going to be drafting into and whatever else. So this could be a really fun series. So make sure to let me know down in the comment section below whether you like these types of things. So first and foremost, we've got this draft right here. Again, I'll leave a link to the Brawl Stars subreddit so you can join it. So in terms of this, it's a little bit sketchy. So Lou didn't have a hypercharge, star power, or gears. So of course your typical ranked game. And then he kind of panic picked and picked Otis, and it didn't work out. So you can see the bands right here. So I've got my own application. Again, big thanks to Caster and Analyst that really helped me out with this. So anyways, you can see this really helps out the analysts, lay things out. There's also other websites as well, which are free and you guys can use, which I'll put in the description. So this just really helps further your understanding with drafts. So let's just say he didn't know the other two bands. Let's just say the double band Piper and Kit. So with out in the open, of course, Primo is a very weird pick. You probably won't see it most of the time, but these weird drafts sometimes can throw you off guard, I will say. Primo, he's good against Lily, for example, and could be good once he gets his super in the late stage, believe it or not. So my advice is to not panic. Again, it's a weird draft, so you got to bear in mind they've got two sharpshooters here. Of course, Lily is good into those sharpshooters, but she kind of needs something to help her kind of push up the map, because if she gets a kill, she's probably going to get traded out, especially if she burns through her gadgets. Lou's really good into Primo, but of course countered by those other two snipers. So there's some good matchups, some bad matchups that you got to take into consideration here. So straight away, I'm thinking, well, you kind of need a sharpshooter, which is good into tanks. This is why I always talk about RT and Belle in the draft. So those two brawlers you can't really go wrong with. Normally you draft these two brawlers a bit earlier on in the draft, but these would still be pretty perfect here because RT, he's not the worst against Angelo and Nanny. And of course, Primo can't jump on an RT with super, so just really good. Belle, at least Belle can like push up the map, can use gadget to kill Angelo and Nanny, and will just literally shred through Primo. And the good thing about Belle as well, she can open up the map and make it a lot more effective to counter El Primo, because that's probably like the biggest threat, especially late game. I would say my personal favorite though will have to be a brawler like Meg. So let's put Meg into the screen right here. So with Meg, you might be thinking, well, Meg is a pretty terrible brawler in the meta right now. Why would you go Meg? So with Meg, the good thing about it is that she has a decent amount of HP, so she can at least like survive against Nanny and Angelo. And then of course Primo just gets ripped through by a Meg. Again, Meg is a really off-meta pick, but I think in this instance should be really good. Again, you can go with like brawlers like Max maybe to pair with the Lily to be really aggressive, but you have to be a good Max player. But I think with Meg, it has good potential as long as you're not walking in a straight line and juking out a little bit. I like the Meg pick. Draft if it's a triple Dribble, and this one I thought wasn't the worst in the world, in terms of the player pick, but I can kind of see straight away that maybe when I see like a Nita on triple Dribble, I just know that teammate's gonna go like 0 and 12 because it has very limited range and you normally need something with Nita to make it work. So as always, Max can make this work. That's why I love Max in the draft. But let's go through it then. So the reason why I think Melody wasn't the best pick here is because there's kind of free anti-tanks as such, and especially with Cordelius literally hard counters Melody, so you don't really want a brawler that's got a really terrible matchup, especially when you've got last pick as well. So in terms of what I've kind of devised here, so again, I've gone through the draft right here. So there's a couple of brawlers in particular that I really like into this. So the first brawler is going to be Janet. So Janet can be pretty good into this because Janet, you think of these three brawlers here. You think of Larry and Laurie. Of course, he's going to have the matchup with Barley, and then he's going to be pretty good against Nita. Nita can be okay against Cordelius. Both have pretty small range, but of course, Nita should be able to win that matchup. And then Amber outranges Nita as well. So I don't think Nita will have the best of matchups. So with Janet should have a very similar kind of level to Amber, but at least Janet can like push up to walls a lot better, get better map position, especially on a map like this. Same goes with Cordelius. Of course, Janet can outrange, and then Larry, Barley should be able to deal with that and win that matchup for now. So again, like a control brawler should be able to counter these kind of free anti-tank kind of brawlers. And then I really like Penny here. At the same time, with Penny, you are of course picking Penny into another thrower like Larry and Laurie, but with Penny, like it's still, you're going to be like in a decent matchup against Amber. Should be able to feed some supers as long as you're putting your Penny turret pretty far away from that Larry and Laurie. you should be able to cycle it pretty quickly, especially in this meta. And again, Cordelia's going aggro, should be able to feed some supers. At least with Penny, should be able to like get some help, because with Nita, you're not going to have any help. Of course, Max can always fix drafts, but you've got to be a really good Max. But here's some off-meta ones that I really like. So the first one we're going to put in here that I really like is actually Frank. So the reason why I like Frank, you might be thinking, well, those are 3 anti-tanks. They can be really good into Frank. But the thing is, you know, Amber isn't going to have unlimited ammo, especially against like Nita, who's got a decent amount of HP. And with Frank here, so, you know, Frank won't have the best stats, but you need a goal scorer here. That's the problem. Like Nita and Barley, yeah, they're going to be good for control. You need a goal scorer, so there. Also, Frank counters Cordelia. So typically, Cordelia will counter other assassins and tanks. But with Frank, he just wins that 1 versus 1 interaction. So I really like that. I know Larry can feed a lot of supers, but it's going to be near enough impossible for him to kill Frank, especially if he misses a couple of shots. Frank can heal up pretty quickly with the health gear, so I really like that interaction as well. Another brawler that I think is super underrated in this matchup has to be Buster. So again, generically you will play Buster on a more bushier map, but the reason why I really like Buster here is because again, he beats Cordelius in the Shadow Realm and he's a tankier brawler. So speaking of like Nita getting outranged, whether else, you can either like just go with the idea of just trying to get pressure, like you know you're going to get a bad KD, right? But you need some help with Nita, so if you can press up the map, that can allow your Nita to maybe get into a good position as well, and vice versa. So Buster's going to be good for that. Also, you got the shield against Amber as well. You know, Larry's going to struggle to kill a Buster. Like, he might be able to chip him and get some good damage off against him, but he'll hardly ever be able to kill him as well. And then the final one that I really like as well is actually Carl. So the reason why I really like Carl, oh wait, that's Carl Spen. So Carl, I really like Carl because he's actually okay into Larry and Laurie, especially with the super. Carl again can kind of just get into a good position here against most of these brawlers, and he's not going to get fully shut down by the Cordelia, so that's a decent one. But again, my favorite has to be Buster for me. This just looks like an absolutely beautiful Buster game, so I think with a brawler like that, you can actually turn away the draft. And again, like a tank brawler, kind of, it's like a carry pick in ranked. So next up, we've got a draft query from the Checkler. So as you can see by the drafts right here, it doesn't look the worst, and here's the 5th pick right here. So let's just quickly go through it. So with this one, you've got the fact that Barley is 1st pick, so straight away I kind of feel sorry for him because Barley, he is a good brawler, but it's very risky to pick Barley as a 1st pick. That's why I suggest like Larry, Juju, mainly because at least they can defend themselves against aggro. You know, Barley's got a slow gadget, but still, like any sort of assassin, literally like they responded with like a Lily, Miko, you know, something that just hard counters him ridiculously. It's just pretty difficult. Then they respond with a Surge as well. Surge is pretty good, but at least Barley's good against Surge, so it's an okay matchup there. And then a great response from his teammate going with the RT, which is very good on this map, and also just good against like Lily and anything like that. So kind of what I'm thinking straight away in the draft. Well, RT, he's going to go defensive lane on parallel plays, and then Barley's kind of going to be this pinch brawler, probably more than likely going to stay mainly defensively, and he's just got to try and stay away from the Lily, to be honest. So he's probably going to be trying to follow around the Surge all time around the mid, but Lily's going to make that very difficult. And then the 5th pick is very crucial. So for me, I think you need something aggressive, because in hot zone, or just maybe like, well, in this map in particular, right, you've got the left zone in the bottom left corner. Of course, that's going to be a defensive one. You've got RT and Barley for that. And then down the right hand lane, I think you need something aggressive. You always need something to press the opponents, even when the draft might not look in particular that, you know, great. You know, they literally draft a Surge, but you still need it. So Cordelius was still a decent pick, but the problem is here, Cordelius is still more of a defensive brawler on this map. So I would rather have gone out of something a bit more aggressive, like a Kenji, maybe even a Melody, just something that's going to cause some pressure on the enemy side of things, or else again, you're going to be defending the entire game. I think this draft is just pretty hard to win anyways, but you can always, you know, bigger your chances of winning. So that would have been the best opportunity. Of course, they went BB last pick, which I think BB isn't even that great into this composition, but if you go like Nita or someone like that, well, they can just go a thrower last pick. So just how parallel plays is played, you normally have a thrower, you normally have a defensive brawler, then you have an offensive brawler. So you just needed something a bit more aggressive there to try and further your chances of winning. Moving on to the next draft, as you can see here, we see Milky Boy Hank, but actually it's an underrated pick in draft, especially if you can coordinate something like this. So this is actually a pretty dangerous draft, believe it or not. Sprout 1st pick is actually still pretty good on Belle's rock, but it can get countered out. So already maybe I can, you know, I see the idea with Brock trying to open it up, but the thing still is here that Brock can get countered out against other snipers if you open it up. But the big mistake here kind of is your teammate going Rico. I know sometimes that you can maybe pick Rico's biggest counter in Brock and then pick Rico and not open up the map, but here I feel like you need to open up the map, especially against the thrower. So yeah, Rico was a big mistake from your teammate. And then we see Byron and Hank, which is actually an incredible response, by the way. Like, Hank, of course, is really good against those squishy brawlers that he can two-shot. And then Byron in behind that. Hank is actually pretty good at countering some of the counters to, like, Sprout, for example. I really like their draft, so this is actually pretty difficult. So his teammate actually went Frank. So Frank is a very, very, very good pick against Hank, pretty much in every situation except for Belle's Rock, because on Belle's Rock here you can see the unbreakable walls which Hank can push behind. I mean, I feel Frank should be able to win, well, at least be okay into it, but I can see why they lost at the same time, because the angles are a little bit awkward, especially with Brock and Rico. I feel like Brock and Rico are just getting zero value here whatsoever. They can just get overran so easily. So there's a couple of ideas I'm thinking of straight away. So the first brawl I'm thinking of straight away is Dynamite. So I know you're thinking, oh well, you're looking to counter one of the worst brawlers in the game. Wow, that must be so difficult. But still, I think Dynamite is one of the best counters. So if I can even find it, there we go. Dynamite. If you hear me on stream, I say Dynamite is one of the biggest counters because you got the stun into Hank. Hank has a bigger hitbox, and of course you can cycle a lot of supers through Hank. Hank can do nothing into a Dynamite, especially a decent one. So you also just need that artillery brawler because they've kind of got one here, and you know, Sprout just destroys Brock and Rico. Even with Brock opening up the map, two squishy brawlers there, you need a thrower there that has high damage to deal with the healing, and Hank, I just think, is absolutely beautiful. There's another one that I think is pretty decent. I think it's pretty difficult. You can go one or two ways. So you need something big, heavy damage to take down Hank, or you could go the other route and try and take down the other two brawlers. The only problem is here that you've got to be careful with your selection with your aggro brawler, because yeah, you can take down Sprout or maybe Byron, but if they're grouping up, it can be difficult. And with Hank, it's hard to kill Hank because now with the tank trait and whatever else, he's really good at defending himself with the super, so you can't really jump directly onto Hank. But what you can do, you can jump directly onto Sprout, very, very vulnerable to assassins, and Byron can be okay into assassins sometimes with a gadget and super, but for the most part you should be able to kill him. But it's all about trying to probably kill the other two brawlers. You're probably going to get traded out, but then it's down to your teammates to try and survive that. So Edgar, really good for killing Byron and Sprout. Also another one in terms of good tank counter, of course, we've got Lou. So Lou's really good in the knockout meta right now. And of course, Lou can just really counter Hank with the constant hypercharge farmings, etc. So the way you do that, just break open the map with Brock, and then just make sure that you put in Lou, maybe like down the far right, maybe like break open that far right wall, and then he can just pinch, make sure they're not pushing up to that unbreakable wall. You know, Brock and Rico keep their distance here, just kind of pinch things down, and they should be able to win that with Lou farming through supers. But of course, Lou's one of the best brawlers in the game. Then there's a couple of off-meta ones. So another one that I really like, if you don't like the Edgar, it might be a little bit risky. I like Lily a lot. Lily's starting to be played a lot by the pros. And of course, with the gadget spam, you can definitely, like, what you can do easily, maybe like 1 or 2 rounds, is just gadget up the map when they don't expect it, land on top of a Sprout, quickly get a kill, then you can just pop gadget again and go to safety. So that's just a way of kind of at least getting a free kill here, because Sprout and Byron just can't defend himself. So a couple of other good options as well. I really like El Primo into this, because Primo, once he gets jump, can definitely do decent into these two. The problem is with El Primo here, you're not really going to get super, so a bit more of an advanced one. So yeah, my personal favorite, I would actually say it's Lily. Again, Lily with a gadget, being able to kill those squishier brawlers. They can't really deal with her gadget spam in this situation. I think it'd be great. Not the best into Hank, but it's all about destroying the support around the Hank. Now moving on to the final one for the video, as you can see right here. This one got a lot of likes and a lot of interactions because this is kind of your typical rank game as well. So I'm guessing this is how the draft went. You can see by the stats that they've clearly got the kills to win the game. But then you got to realize it's Dribble, and with Dribble you need a goal scorer, and you also, it doesn't matter how many kills you get, obviously it's all about winning. And same of course goes with heists, etc. But sometimes people, you know, they take these games like team deathmatch, for example, and they only go for kills. You know, it's not bounty, you need to score. It doesn't matter about your KD, so just go for the goals. So Gale, it was a good pick. The person doing this was the Gale, by the way. Gale's a good pick. Like, it counters Primo, counters Edgar. You guys know Edgar's not the great. I mean, Gale's not the greatest in the meta. I've been saying for a long time now since his nerfs. People have finally caught up to it. So I recommend one of a few brawlers. So of course you need an anti-tank here. So the reason why the draft went so horribly wrong, they first picked Surge, which was a terrible first pick, by the way. And then, yeah, one of Squeak or Barley would have been good. I would have probably just personally gone for Barley. Or probably like Larry and Laurie, for example, if it wasn't banned out. Something a bit better. And then gone with something like with a little bit of range, maybe a little bit of something of aggression that's not going to get countered by Surge, etc. But 2 brawlers to counter Surge so early on in the draft, it just wasn't it. So, of course, that opened up to Edgar and Primo, 2 great brawlers to counter. It's a good thing about Primo as well. He's a good goal scorer, good in Brawl. So I think the opponents drafted this really well, and it was just horrible by the red team. Anyway, so there's a couple of brawlers. So the first one I would rather have had over Gale. I would have maybe even gone for something like a Shelly. So the reason why I'd have gone for Shelly instead of a Gale, again, Gale isn't the best meta brawler right now. I'd say Shelly's kind of similar to Gale in the meta in terms of how strong she is, but you've got that wall break, you've got the goal scorer aspect as well, and you've just got more of a brute force defender right now. I feel like Gale takes too long to get supers. So again, wall break, hypercharge, more pop-off potential with Shelly in my opinion. The same goes with another brawler that I like, which a lot of people don't really go in this meta. It is Tara. So with Tara is really good into this because of a few reasons. I should really have typed this out because it's right at the bottom. There we go. Tara. So Tara's really good into Surge because of the gadgets. So what you could, of course, do, I mean, Surge already has enough bad matchups, but that's just pretty good as well. But with Tara, with the hypercharge, you can create some really good goal scoring opportunities. Again, it might take a little while to build up your super, so that's just like an off meta one. It's not one of my favorite ones. One of my favorite ones though has to be Griff in this meta. So Griff is so good in this meta. I know you've got the fact that you've got a Barley and a Squeak. You don't really want to open up the map, but at the same time, you can open up their side of the map instead and create some goal scoring opportunities. So the thing is, the way you have to play this game is you have to try and get a team wipe here. Like, you're obviously going to get quite a few kills with like a tank and being able to, you know, if you're grouping up, it's still pretty hard for the blue team to actually, you know, kill you if you're all grouping up at the same point, because there's two brawlers on the enemy team that want to jump in. So you could go with like a really hyper defensive brawler and you all could group up and it could be pretty good. I know you give value to the Surge, but Squeak and Barley could maybe focus on the Surge, and then you go with the anti-tank and just group up. So that's why I really like Griff. That's why I like Shelly. And then you've got another brawler as well in Maisie. So I know I give Maisie like a lot of hate, but I think she's really good in triple dribble, mainly because you've got some good line of sights down the right hand lane, for example. And again, you can hyper counter all of these aggro brawlers because of the fact that as well, you know, with Edgar, you've got a dash, you've got super to defend yourself. Primo, again, you've got dash, super, and you can farm a lot of hypercharge. And you've also got the fact that if the Surge doesn't use the shield gear, Maisie 2 taps the Surge. So of course, I think anti-tank is definitely the way to go here. Don't overcomplicate things, but you need a goal scorer, and I don't think Gale is that goal scorer. I mean, he can with his super if you're well timed, like a pushback, for example. Maybe you could have played Gale a little bit better. For the draft, we're pretty screwed though. But in terms of the other anti-tanks I recommended, they were probably the better goal scorers. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. Let me know whether you like these types of videos, and probably I could just do like 10 of these in a row, but I need more suggestions. There wasn't actually a lot to go off on this Reddit, so make sure to go over there, post some of them in draft query. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.